Hello and welcome back to inmr, where in today's podcast I'm joined by Gemma Moss as we preview the North London derby. The pressure's piling up as we approach the end of the season, and Mikel Arteta's side have yet another huge game to continue staking their claim for the league title. Spurs have got a massive say on the title race this year. Not only do they play Arsenal this weekend, but they've also got Liverpool and Man City to play, and you'd expect them to get a result from at least one of those games. Manchester City always seem to struggle against Spurs, which is going to provide hope for the Gunners if they can get a result this Sunday. But in terms of Spurs, it does seem as though they're starting to fizzle out. Although Postecoglou says it's not the big aim to get a Champions League spot, there is no denying that it's what they want after a positive first season in this new era. Recent form hasn't been awful, but the 4-0 defeat to Newcastle is definitely a cause for concern, and obviously because of the huge break they've had between the games, that embarrassing defeat is going to still be on their mind. It seems that lately there's been a growing problem in the Spurs camp. Maddison's influence has worn off since the new year, and Postecoglou doesn't rotate the squad as much as other managers in the league, and that's shown with key players making errors in games. The reality is that Spurs are still adapting, but they have surpassed expectations. This is the big one though. Tottenham versus Arsenal. We've seen in midweek Everton have shut down Liverpool's title hopes. Spurs could do the same thing here. Big game Sunday, Tottenham versus Arsenal. Initial thoughts, how do you think the game's going to go?
There's more riding on it for them. Not only is it top four they're looking for, but also the potential that we could win the league. And they know what they have to do. They have to beat us so we don't do it, obviously. And I think last season we obviously beat it at their place 2-0. And usually with the North London derby, it was always we beat them at Emirates, they beat us at their place. It was always one of those things. And I think last season, because we did the double over them, you kind of have that. And obviously this season they drew at our place. So I think this for us, it means a lot more. Tottenham know what they have to do. They don't want us winning the league. But yeah, it's a game which I always like. Obviously you look forward to the game, but it's also a game which I always end up dreading because especially away, like it's not good for the heart, like watching it. But yeah, I think on paper, our team is 100% better than their team. We should beat their team on paper, but because it's the North London derby, as always, you can't ever take form into the derby.
Yeah, so if we have a look at Spurs first, we'll go through our key players. So who have you chosen for the one to watch for Spurs?
For Spurs, the player that I've said to watch is James Maddison. Always, I mean, I think since he's come back from injury, he's not been as good as obviously. Well, I think when he started for Spurs, he had a bit of a purple patch where everything just seemed to be going for him. And don't get me wrong, like he's a class player. Like I would have loved him at Arsenal. Obviously, those at Spurs, no, I don't want him. But yeah, I think there's always that one to watch because I think he played so well at the Emirates. He was their best player by miles, and I think he'll be up for the occasion as well, especially as he knows I think it's kind of good in the way his numbers hasn't been good recently because he knows a good performance at Arsenal where they could get points from will obviously boost confidence for him. But yeah, I think whenever James Maddison's on the pitch, you've always got to look out for him.
Perfect. So I've gone for Basuma. There might be a little bit of Brighton bias, but he is a joke. Obviously, he's not got an easy job in the Arsenal midfield, but on his day, he dictates the tempo so well, so composed. And I think with this Arsenal midfield that like to drive forward, he's somebody that just cuts it out and then mounts attacks himself. Like, you know, you're going to have people like Rice, who is deep but then bursts forward. I think Basuma is going to be key in cutting that all out. So it's going to be very difficult. But if he has a good game, I think Arsenal are going to really struggle.
Again, it's the same with James Maddison. I think they know that if they have a good game against Arsenal, that it'll like be in their favour, especially if they have all this time to like practice and prepare for us.
I think like both the players we've picked, obviously a similar thing where, you know, they're not the ones that stand, like neither of us have said Son, which is instantly the one you'd pick, but it's small players that you don't want to not identify them as a threat because players like Maddison and Basuma will catch you out. For Arsenal, who have you picked out as your key player?
I'd do Martin Odegaard. Honestly, I still think, like I said, I still think he is a bit underrated for what he does. Last time at the Spurs Stadium, he scored. He dictates our play, and if he's having a good game, then the others will just kind of feed off it.
Yeah, like you say, if he doesn't play well, it's game over. I've gone for Martinelli. Obviously, similar thing to Maddison, where his performances have dropped off like recently, but I think he's another one that's such a threat. You just can't take your eye off him. His like turn of pace, I think he's I've heard so many Arsenal fans say he's quicker than Trossard when Trossard's come off the bench like fresh, even when
Oh,
Martinelli's
yes, you know
tired.
he is. Yeah, I think Trossard had the chance. I don't know what game it was, but literally the first thing I said was if that was Martinelli, that we would have scored it because of how fast Martinelli is.
He needs to play the full 90 because obviously Tottenham have had this big rest, but they have looked fatigued, especially in that Newcastle game. So when it gets those last 15, he needs to stay on because he'll just capitalise on tired legs.
No, 100%. So then it's kind of the argument, well, do you start Trossard then and then bring Martinelli on? It's a debate which I'm glad I don't have to make a decision for.
Yeah, definitely. Like you said, Arteta's so like overthinking with his tactics in all games. For biggest individual battle, who have you gone for?
I've gone for Havertz and Van der Ven. I know Van der Ven, he didn't obviously play the Newcastle game, was a very good game for him, I believe. I enjoyed watching that very much. But yeah, no, you can't, even with that game, like we were joking about and stuff, and like me and my family group are sending these memes, everything, but you can't like his quality, and I think he's a defender, like his pace is unreal. You know, I think Havertz and Van der Ven will be interesting because I want to see how Van der Ven kind of not keeps Havertz quiet. I don't want him to keep him quiet, but I think the movement of Havertz is something Van der Ven's got to watch out for, and I do think that will be an interesting one.
Definitely. I've gone for Saka versus Udogi. Udogi really struggled against Saka last year. Saka got his goal, and looking at how Udogi played, I mean, I watched that game. He was horrendous. So I think again,
Yeah,
Saka's got a point to prove. Obviously, after this Champions League, he didn't play his best against Bayern this week, but I think this is his chance to prove he can do it in big games. He's proven it, but it seems like he's always got to do it every single game. Keep showing that he can do it in big games.
100%. I think with Saka, I think a lot of it is there's always people who are expecting more from him. I think people are kind of forgetting how good Saka is.
Yeah, but like you say, it's the age thing because he's been like on the scene for so long. People forget he's not 27. He's come on extremely young. He's not going to be getting unbelievable numbers because he is still adapting.
I think I was going to say Saka and Udogie, obviously you did it as well. So yeah, but Saka is big. He's a big player. He always likes a derby. So hopefully he can pull it through.
I think he will. So we got if we look at both teams' form and then our prediction, Spurs obviously haven't had they've had a much longer resting period. Their last 5 games, they've only had 2 wins, and they weren't convincing. Obviously, Arsenal have lost their last 2, but I think by the time that they've played against Wolves and Chelsea, confidence is going to be back up. They've never won back-to-back away games at Tottenham, but I think Sunday could potentially be the day. What do you think the score's going to be?
I'm going to say 2-1 Arsenal, because again, Tottenham are on that streak where they've been scoring every single game. But yeah, I do think we should win it. Like with our players, we should win 2-1. But I wouldn't be surprised if we drop points.
Yeah, see, I was stuck between 1-0 and 3-2 because Arsenal's defence is so good, but also they're struggling to be clinical. But then again, North London derbies are normally so just like what's going on, just everything's up in the air.
Yeah, and I think with our defence as well, recently I think we've let in like a lot more goals. Like in the past few games, we've let in like 5 goals in our past 3 games.
Yeah, and I think you said earlier about Tottenham's high defensive line. Postecoglou doesn't like to change his system, so I do think they're going to go for it, which obviously does mean that you're going to have plenty of chances to get in behind. So I'm going to stick with 3-2, but I'm really excited for it. Who do you think will score if it is 2-1?
2-1. I think Saka will score, and I think Martinelli probably will score as well.
Yeah, I was going like same thing. Martinelli, Saka, and then maybe like Gabriel from a set piece because you've been so good from corners this year.
Oh yeah, our corners have been so good. I think as well, Tottenham's record for corners and defending corners is not good at all. And I know Postecoglou always says about how they don't need a set piece coach, but clearly, especially like they do. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Actually, that's a really good shout. If one of the goals find like a set piece, Gabriel, then I'd probably say Martinelli and Gabriel because that is, I feel like we get him on the set piece.